What is happening out here in the Atlantic? Well, folks, it looks like we just got it wrong. There's a tropical wave that we've been talking about over the last several days that had a high chance to develop into a tropical depression or our next named storm, which is Gabrielle. In fact, a lot of people, including me, thought that this would become our next hurricane of the season. Fast forward to now, we don't even think this is going to develop into anything now. So we're going to speak on this along with a couple other areas that we need to watch a little bit closer to home, really in the Gulf. And then there could be another tropical wave here in the next several days behind this one that we'll talk about first. After that, we'll break down today's weather and then we'll be done because there is a severe weather threat we need to watch out for portions of the Mid-Atlantic and the I-95 corridor up into the Northeast for later on this afternoon into this evening. So we'll get very detailed on that also. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So let's talk about what's going on with our tropical wave, which did get dubbed Invest 91L. And we're not going to spend much time on this at all, but this is it right here. It doesn't look any different than it did, say, 2, 3, 4 days ago. Just a blob of shower and storm action, disorganized. It's definitely not really organized. There is sort of a low-level spin underneath this shower and storm activity, but it's just not firing off organized shower and storm activity, and just nothing can get going. It'll blow up some convection, shower and storms, but it just cannot really get going to really sum this up. So the circled area is our tropical wave, Invest 91L, just kind of drifting around out there in the central Atlantic, not developing into really anything. So let's get this back off your screen. Let's move forward. What about the latest from the National Hurricane Center? Now, there will be another update here in about an hour or so, but they did drop the chances of this developing. At one point, it was a 90% chance sometime between now and the next several days. Now it's down to a 60% chance, and I believe it's at a 40% chance between now and the next 48 hours. But I honestly think this will drop even more. In fact, I think that this area in orange will show up in yellow in the next update, and I think they'll drop this to like a 30% chance or lower. They might only bump it down to a 40%, but I just don't think this is going to develop. And honestly, I've had a lot of questions over the last 24 hours saying, they've been asking me, many others, have we ever had like the rug pulled out from under us like this in the past, where even the National Hurricane Center had a 90% chance at tropical development? And I can't remember any situation. If anybody in the comments can, certainly, drop it in the comments. I would like to look back on it, but I didn't see where there was any sort of situation in the past where this has happened. So this didn't just kind of, if you will, punk me. It punked many others too, and including the people at the National Hurricane Center. So just a weird one, a very tricky system, and I'll be the first one to admit we definitely aren't always going to get this right. You guys know that. So anyways, it's down to a 60% chance to develop. There's no other areas of interest, but I am going to watch other areas of interest and my personal take on it. So kind of my areas of interest. But just to kind of look at model guidance with this system, it doesn't really show up on the model. So we actually have to look at sort of the boring map, right? The 850 millibar VORT energy in sort of the lower levels of the atmosphere, about a mile up in the air above the surface of the ocean in this case. But it's going to be hard to see it. And this is the energy actually right in here. I know you're probably thinking, man, I don't really see anything. There's other areas of a yellow and orange that look a lot more impressive than that. And I would agree with you. But there is some sort of open wave right here, sort of northeast of the Leeward Islands. And eventually this gets north. And it actually does try to develop some sort of more organized, I wouldn't even call it a spin, but sort of elongated spin. And it sort of spins away and actually moves east of Bermuda, which is right here, and then just kind of gets thumped out into the Atlantic and doesn't bother anybody. So regardless, it really doesn't develop. And if it did, it looks like the steering currents now also favor more of an out to sea or staying out to sea scenario. What about the GFS? Does it show anything with this? And as we move forward, here's sort of the wave here. And it sort of just kind of gets thrown over the Caribbean islands and brings some shower and storm activity. Nothing that's, nothing to write home about for sure. Now, we certainly need to watch the energy, folks, because it could get thrown into the Gulf, link up with some other energy, and we'll have a segment for that here in a second. But we're going to stop it right here for Invest 91L. And the last thing I'll show you is there any ensemble guidance support from this anymore? Absolutely not. It shows some members sort of getting near Bermuda, like a few out of 51, by the way, literally a few, maybe a handful, trying to sort of develop, but I wouldn't even, I mean, it's just nothing to write home about. So next area I want to talk about that is really gaining model support, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything like we just saw with this last tropical wave or current one, is model guidance. Almost every model run is really liking another tropical wave by about mid to late next work week. I'm talking about the 10th, 11th, maybe into the 12th. And here it is on your screen, starting off kind of where our current tropical wave did. And you can see the L on your screen, 1013 millibar low, weaker low pressure. And this sort of just drifts across what we call the MDR, main development region, as we get about 8 days from now. I mean, we're all the way out into next Sunday, not tomorrow, next Sunday, September the 14th. And we do have a pretty organized tropical cyclone. I mean, this would be a tropical storm, and this continues to just kind of cruise. And, you know, we get about 300 hours out, and we'll stop it here, and it never really develops into anything organized. I mean, maybe a tropical storm at some point, but that's just one model run. We're really just looking at this just to see, do all these model runs agree with one another that we're going to have some sort of tropical wave? And the GFS shows it too. Here it is, another tropical wave quickly developing. Now it is the GFS, and in fact, about a week from today, the GFS has a tropical storm in the central Atlantic. Looks like deja vu, right, from what we were just tracking with this current tropical wave. But, you know, it does develop this into a hurricane, but gains some latitude. We go about 10 and a half days out, and it does have around a Category 1 hurricane about September 15th or 16th, just out here in the Atlantic. So do you put a lot of weight into this? No, you do not. What you do put some weight into this with is that model guidance likes a tropical wave. And even in the icon, I mean, this is the icon from last night. It likes some sort of kind of open wave too in this area, and we can go about a week on the icon out. Not a great model, by the way, but it is model guidance. We go a week from right now, next Saturday morning, and it does have an open wave in the middle of the main development region. Now, what about the Euro AI model? If I had my hat on, which I don't this morning, we tip our cap to the Euro AI model with the current wave because it did a heck of a job. And that's why I never quit showing it in my videos with tracking the current wave 91L, is because if a model is a bit of an outlier, right, but it's a consistent one, sure, it might be an outlier. Well, in this case, it was showing a weaker system against all the other model runs. It was showing a stronger system. But if it's being a consistent one, I think it's worth still showing. And it was. And it was right. And the Euro AI model never liked developing this current tropical wave. And you tip your cap to it because it's not, unless it does something crazy. What about this next tropical wave? It's right in here, just kind of a blob of darker green. And there it is, L popping up on your screen. Now the Euro AI model likes another wave right behind it, which is something totally different. And it actually develops the one behind it. So, you know, just to kind of wrap this part up, you know, one thing I will say is the Climate Prediction Center, as far as their tropics outlook, and I might have to pull that up on the fly right at the end of this update on the tropics, continues to like the main development region for tropical development over the next really few weeks. So it makes sense that we continue to see signs of tropical development out here. Now, we take a look at the Euro ensemble, and we ignore this because this is our current wave, and we really look at this. This is between now and next Thursday evening. All right, we're starting to get many L's showing up on your screen. View that as a signal for tropical development. Now we go about a week out. We're starting to see more L's right in here. Ignore this. Right here. This is our signal for our next tropical wave. Now check it out. We go about 10 days out, and man, look at this signal. That is many members. So it still looks active out there. There looks to be like some other tropical wave that we need to watch. And it is cruising decently south as far as its track. So I do think we need to watch the wave behind this. Now, this might be a case where a lot of the viewers think it's a guy that cried wolf, right? We talked up this one tropical wave, and then we start to talk about another, and less people are going to take us serious. I get it. I know how it works, but we continue to track regardless. Now, what about the GFS ensemble? And this is between now and the next 5 days or so, next Thursday evening. Here's a lot of members right here, and then we go about a week out. And I mean, the GFS ensemble, which makes up 21 members, likes this wave also. And we go about 10 days out. And yeah, I mean, a lot of members develop this wave of interest. So we'll move past this. The next area we'll discuss, and it's starting to get some attention in the social media weather world, is, I would say, really in the Gulf. I think we could get just lower pressure developing off the coast of the southeast, but it's really the Gulf and the Western Caribbean. We're going to start this Friday morning of next week, September the 12th. I want to watch as we get between day 7 and day 10. You're going to see a lot of moisture begin to build in this area here. You're just seeing blobs of green, splashes of yellow, orange, and red. But this is a lot of tropical moisture sort of getting trapped down here with some sort of frontal boundary. You notice up here in the deep south and the southeast, there's no moisture, right? That's because there's a lot of dry air getting pushed down. So there's a lot of moisture sort of cruising along and just south of a boundary, hanging out over maybe the northern Gulf. So this is 10 days from now. I know it's pretty far out, but there's a lot of moisture just sort of broadly cyclonically spinning around down here. And I really think we need to watch this area. Another way to look at this is the 850 millibar vort. Is there an actual spin somewhere in here? And once we get kind of past day 10, there is a very broad spin, almost taking up a large chunk of the Gulf. And I just think we need to watch it, especially as a favorable sort of MJO pulse of rising air starts to move into basically the Western Atlantic. What about the GFS? Is it showing anything? We're going to start this Friday morning once again, and we start to get into next weekend. There's a big area of moisture right here. You got to watch these areas of moisture. And it kind of spins up something. Right here you can see the low pressure right here kind of going up against the Gulf coastline. And then it spins up something else sort of in the northwest Gulf there. And we just continue to watch energy. Big area of energy sort of tucked into off the coast of the southeast here too. And this is as far out as we can go. If we look at the run prior to this, it's same thing, kind of spins up a quick tropical storm here in the northeast Gulf. This is for next weekend. And we just got to continue to watch some energy. What's wild to me is, the Euro ensemble between now and the next 10 days does not like much. But you look at, say, the GFS ensemble, this is between now and the next week, a little bit of a signal. Coming out the Western Caribbean, and not a whole lot, but then you go 10 days out. And it's a little bit more aggressive. A few members get going. Listen, we've been very lucky with the Gulf so far. It seems like every year, for the last 5 years at least, I believe, I'm not sure, I can't remember if we had a big hurricane in the Gulf in 2019. We did have a couple big hurricanes, with Dorian and stuff like that. But I know obviously in 2018 we had Hurricane Michael. But anyways, it's been quiet in the Gulf. I mean, very quiet. I don't think we've had anything really besides just very weak energy. But we'll continue to watch this, guys. And the last thing I'll wrap this up with, and let's see if we can pull this up on the fly quickly. And I think we can. Yeah, we're good. So, between the 10th and the 16th, what is it, the 6th? You see this area right here in the red and white stripe region? That is a 20% chance of tropical development. And this matches up well with what we're seeing in model guidance. And then it's saying, hey, watch for another wave in this time period, which matches up well with what we just broke down. There's a bird outside my window that is just incredibly loud. And it says continue to watch the Gulf and areas of the Caribbean and the Southwest Atlantic as we get between the 17th and the 23rd. And it has a 40% chance in this solid red color area for tropical development here in areas way out in the Atlantic. So we're not done, guys. We're not done, I'm telling you. I want to be done because I want us just to cruise into the pretty fall colors and take my trips to the mountains here in the coming weeks and stuff like that. By the way, a buddy of mine that lives he lives in the mountains of North Carolina. He runs a great, an awesome account where, man, I really need to plug his stuff in here. I'll think about that. But anyways, if y'all are familiar with Southwest North Carolina mountains, the Graveyard Fields. It's one of the more highly elevated areas of the Blue Ridge Parkway. But he posted a picture, and there's already low color. I mean, there's some splashes of yellow, orange, and red. So seasons are changing, folks. But as far as today's weather, we got a solid area of light to moderate rain going across areas of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley. Heavier rain down here across the Deep South. Area of thunderstorms also. We're going to have some severe weather with a frontal boundary digging down. Solid, just light rain, cool rain up here in the Great Lakes region. We got an area of storms. Heavy rain moving across northwest Arizona. A little bit of moisture across the west. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We have freeze warnings across North Dakota. And outside of that, there ain't a whole lot. Now, as far as the Storm Prediction Center outlook, just a general risk of thunderstorms in the light green. But if we zoom into these areas, the dark green, that is a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. So we could have some severe storms from northern Georgia through the western and central Carolinas, all the way up through Virginia, Richmond, Washington, D.C., Baltimore. And then check this out. Once we get into Philadelphia, Allentown, New York City, all the way up into Hartford, the Valley region. I mean, we get all the way up into central and western Mass, all the way into southern areas of Vermont and New Hampshire, all the way up into southern areas of Maine. We have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, a slight risk. And there is a tornado threat. Some highly populated areas in this region. 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location. And here's just a zoomed in look at this. I'll kind of move over this very slowly. I haven't spent a lot of time on severe weather lately, but I mean, there really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. Wind threats, there is in the yellow a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour, and not much of a hail threat with this today. And we're going to get detail on this for you folks. Now, the risk of excessive rainfall, we got to watch the New York City area, areas of Long Island, down to Philadelphia, areas of New Jersey. 15% risk is a lot of clutter. 15% risk of excessive rainfall. Now, the southeast, this energy will just cruise towards the Appalachian Mountains. We'll get some thunderstorms in northern Alabama, the Cumberland Plateau, eastern Tennessee, northern Georgia, the western Carolinas today, all the way up into Virginia. And we'll see if we can get some rain into the central Carolinas. It's starting to get really dry for a lot of people. We got a very, very lucky at my house, 3/100ths of an inch of rain, 0.03. I mean, we had a pop-up downpour that, was just enough to tease us with some rain. It was very nice. But anyways, starting off around 11 a.m. this morning, you can see the energy starting to cruise towards the mountainous regions, and we'll move this very slowly. Asheville could get some thunderstorms. Johnson City, Boone, Banner Elk, Hickory, some thunderstorms later this afternoon. This is 4. This is 5 p.m. This is 6 p.m. This is 7 p.m. This is Charlotte, Greensboro down to Greenville. Some thunderstorms, and it looks like, a lot of this energy by later this evening begins the weekend, but we could still get some thunderstorms into Raleigh, Richmond, maybe down to Fayetteville, heck, maybe even Columbia. But the Northeast today, a lot of this light rain will continue to move through, and then out ahead of it, we can get some warming and daytime instability that builds. Some thunderstorms will tap into an unstable environment, and they'll sweep in and then sweep out, and some drier air will move in behind. Now, we'll take a closer look at all these areas. This is 2 p.m., 3, 4, boom. Look at those thunderstorms popping up on top of Frederick, Germantown, into the D.C., Baltimore area. It's around 5 p.m. Look at Wilmington over there. Some thunderstorms happening. Annapolis. And then we get to 7. We get to 8. We get to 9. We get to 10. And we'll continue to get thunderstorm activity in the Tidewater, the Delmarva area, as these storms begin to kind of slow down their forward progression a little bit as the front slows down. And it definitely will. But we start off around noon up here, up the I-95 corridor, the New York City, New Jersey, southern New England area. And look at those storms. And this is what I'm talking about with the tornado threat. You see this little circle thing up here? That is a rotating updraft or strong updraft. So some of these storms will have the potential to produce a quick spin up, a tornado or two. Be aware of that. This is getting into, Western Mass. Watch out northwestern Connecticut. And when we get into 5, we get into 6, we see some thunderstorms. These storms continue to move through southern New England and New York City. And then we start to get into 7. Look at the storms on top of New York City and then moving across New Jersey. This is 9. This is 10. This is 11. This is 12. You can see that just the forward progression really slows down. I think that's why we could get a little bit of a flooding threat across these areas. And let's see what the HER model is actually showing as far as how much rainfall could happen if we could. Yeah, here it is. Right here. How much rainfall is it predicting? Yeah, I mean, it likes the idea of 1 to 2 inches of rain in the New York City area up to Hartford, up to Boston. So we could get a lot of rain fast. So be aware of that. And then up the road a little bit for our friends in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. We start off around 1, 2, 3, moving very slowly. And you can see how you got these squiggly circle things coming off these cells. I'm telling you, a tornado threat will be legit in this area. So Manchester, Portland, Lewiston, points west. Watch out for these cells. And, it continued to have to look to them once we get into 5 p.m. Look at these storms moving into the down east areas of Maine. And this is 6 p.m., this is 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11. So just be aware of these storms in this neck of the woods. The south central U.S., a little bit of moisture out there. We could get some storms dancing around the southern areas of Texas, some moisture across Colorado and New Mexico. Nothing too crazy one way or the other. Then we move up to the north central U.S. We'll continue to get some flow that drops down. Some of these cells could produce some small hail with a lot of cold air aloft, so don't be surprised you get some small pea-sized hail up here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP, and Michigan. Be surprised at all. So we'll get that. And then we look at the western U.S., and we could get numerous showers, maybe some storms across the Four Corners region and up to Idaho, Oregon. So be aware of that also. And then temperatures. Look at the big heating ahead of this cold front, and then look behind the cold front. I mean, guys, it don't take a rocket scientist to see where this cold front is. It's pretty wild, right? Cooler air here behind all the shower and storm activity, and in front of the front, it's hot and unstable, and we're going to get a risk of thunderstorms. So temperatures out west, nothing too extreme, really one way or the other. So let's flip it to this, and I do want to see the rest of this run. Yeah, GFS turns into a major hurricane, but we'll stop it. In fact, let's make a timestamp right here, and let's do our Bible devotion. I think I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video we were going to have a Bible devotion. But this morning we're in 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 11. Very simple and short, but awesome scripture here. It says, "Seek the Lord in his strength, seek his face always." And that says, seek the Lord and his strength, seek his face always. So I'll put, pursue God all day, every day, right? By doing this, you will be equipped to handle the challenges of life. Challenges could be decision-making, adversity, heartbreak, etc. Ways to seek him daily is through prayer, worship, study scripture, getting the Bible, getting the word, and just talking to him throughout your day. He will give you nudges back. And you might ask, what do you mean by nudges? Well, he'll give you feelings. I mean, I get them too. A lot of times he gives me nudges when right before I'm about to think something I shouldn't think or say something I shouldn't say. So, and I pray that all the time. Like, God, constantly hold me accountable for my thoughts and my actions. That's a big prayer. I mean, I say it in a different way sometimes, but I mean, that to me, that's a very important prayer. And I feel like that's his way of holding me accountable. It's kind of giving me these small nudges every day. And I promise you, it is wild. It's like he works in that split second to kind of give you a chance to kind of not say or do what you're about to do or think what you're about to think. I'm telling you, it is. And I know it's him. And I wrote, remember to seek him always, not just during tough times. I've said that a lot of times while doing these devotions. Listen, obviously we all go to God when it's tough, and he wants us to go to him. I'm not saying he doesn't, but I think it's very important in those kind of good times, the slow times when your car hasn't broken down in a year, nothing's broken your house in 6, 7 months, a couple of years, you're healthy, you got a big raise at your job. Life is just hunky-dory. It's just awesome. I think that's when, as followers of Christ, we can become very lazy, complacent. We just get jammed in a comfort zone, and we don't realize it's happening. And I'm telling you, during those times, that's when you put the foot on the gas and really strengthen that relationship even more, because we should know. If you don't, then I hate to say it, you're being a little gullible, but we should know that inevitably something bad is going to happen around the corner. And that might sound negative, but let's say it like this: a challenge is going to come, is looming. Something is going to happen. It doesn't mean that you sit there and you worry about it. And we all do that, right? We all get anxiety about some bad thing that hasn't even happened yet. I am terrible with that. So, don't get caught up into it so much where it affects you negatively, but prepare yourself, equip yourself. So, and you do that by just constantly seeking God, talking to Him on the way to work, having quiet time. Listen, personally in my life, quiet time is huge. I made a shift in my life back in 2020, 2021, kind of right around the time I started making YouTube videos, and I started waking up really early. I mean, I'm talking about before the roosters crow. I just started waking up early, and now I go to bed really early, like really, really early. Like in the summer, I go to bed before the sun even fully sets. It's still light outside. But to me, there's just nothing important that happens unless there is something important. But for the most part, there's just nothing important that happens at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, unless you just got a nighttime job, obviously. So, I mean, I just don't see the point of staying up that late if you work during the day and you kind of have a normal, like 8 to 5 job. So I much rather get to bed early, wake up early, have some quiet time just to myself before the world wakes up and starts raging. It's huge. Try it out. Give it a chance. It's not going to be easy at first, but I'm telling you, it will change your life. Get up early, have quiet time, spend some time with Christ, and it's just a wonderful kind of slingshot to the rest of your day. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. We're going to hold off on the 2-a-day videos until something starts showing up again. And listen, guys, with discussing this tropical wave, I'll be the first to admit that I got it wrong. Jumped the gun a little bit. I'll admit it. Am I the only one? No, but I'm not going to make this about anyone else. It's about me. But when I saw that the National Hurricane Center was so confident on this developing, and it also matched with model guidance, I mean, yeah, that's when you start really, really hunkering down and talking about it. So, I mean, that's why I did what I did. So, would I go back and change anything? No. I mean, no. But anyways, stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend, guys, and we'll talk again tomorrow morning. God bless.